How you doing, Vic?
Hey Sam,
You
how are
right?
you? Yeah,
Good,
good, good.
thanks. Oh, good. So, can you tell our viewers who you are, what you're about, and what you've been up to?
Yeah, all right, cool. I'm Vik Tara, and I think they call me a Proptech entrepreneur or something like that.
Very true.
I've been involved in the Proptech world from a leadership and technology standpoint, probably for 15, almost 20 years. And before that, had a career in residential lettings, building up property businesses.
Sure. And that was for like a number of years as a family business, right? For
That's right. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And that's where I really got sort of into, this space needs technology and technology transformation.
yeah.
Because rocking up on day one in the family business and as a typewriter. I started there, thinking about, how computers and technology will transform this space. I'm
Okay.
talking about 1993, around that
Wow.
sort of
Okay.
time. I sort of got really first started on it. And the first thing I did was brought computer in.
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna say that's the sort of advent of PCs, right? Really.
exactly, yeah, that was
Yeah.
like, 386, PC, right? And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
long time ago.
So, I guess then, it was filing cabinets, it was
Yeah,
phone
yeah,
call, everything.
photocopier, fax
Yeah.
machines.
Fax machines.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was that era.
Yes.
That's where it started, and it was obvious to me straight away. Coming from, I've been into computers since I was really young.
Yeah.
From school age. So it was really obvious to me when I stepped into that business that wow, this whole area is ripe.
Yeah.
And at that point, it was simply just digitization of some sort. It was like, don't type a contract,
Mm.
laser print a contract,
Sure.
right? So that you could mail merge
Yeah.
fields, right? So that was sort of, where this whole sort of prop tech thing really, started from.
Absolutely. So, tell us about your journey in prop tech. Proper then.
Yeah, so that really started around '98, where I had a need to actually build a web platform to service the student letting.
Yeah.
I got hands dirty with, and back then it was writing stuff in PHP.
Yeah.
So we built a website for students at Warwick Uni so they could access property listings and things like that. Because we had a lot of seasonal demand, we needed a way to handle it. It was really obvious to me at the time that university students were already on the internet. So it was an accessible space. It was easy to use from the union. Yeah, that's where I first really,
Sure.
started to get my hands dirty into prop tech, formally.
Okay.
And so, once I'd done that job, I worked in collaboration with Technology Blueprint on that and did sort of integration where I'd done the website of it. I was using their software in my letting business,
Yeah.
and we put the two things together.
Mm.
I really enjoyed that work. And in the end, I ended up investing in Technology Blueprint and then switching tracks altogether, going full time
Sure.
into building Proptech.
Amazing. So, when you first built that the student lettings website, how many other student lettings websites were around?
There weren't any student lettings websites. I don't think there were any property websites. Right? This is before Rightmove, before any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So there wasn't really a lot around, at that time. So I think we were pretty early. Because why? Because the market or the university market, they were already there. So students were actually some of the first users of the internet through universities. We were lucky to get early exposure, I suppose, through that market.
Sure. So I think, in my early days, I mean, bloody hell, think about it. My parents bought their first house from the
from our agency.
Yeah. And I was a tenant
Really?
for you guys, back in the day,
Right.
yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to look at that sort of generational
Yeah.
journey through it as well.
Yeah. Well, it started in the 70s, actually.
Yeah.
That, isn't it? It's 1972.
Mm.
Yeah, it's when it started the property side. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, things have been
So
going a long time.
I think when we first met properly, I
Mm.
was a graphic designer.
Yeah.
Web was still in its kind of in its infancy.
Yeah.
It was getting more and more traction, but there's still, print. I mean, we used to do every week, every Wednesday by 3 p.m. we had to submit the property listings for an estate agent we
Right.
work for, right, for the
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah. For the
And
newspaper. Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
took, half a day to do, and it's a mad panic. By the time it's been
Mm.
printed, the
Yeah.
property's been sold or let, or it's just
Right.
like, wow.
Yeah.
But it was a big thing, right?
It was.
And
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was, I mean, only 10, 12 years ago, that was still a thing,
It was.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you think prop tech has changed the landscape for?
Well, I think we went through some stages. It's like Proptech version 1, version 2, version 3, you know. And what happened, I suppose the first step was, just basic digitization of things. So doing stuff with a computer that was previously done manually,
Yeah.
right? Then things got, I think, more interesting as we started to write more software. And then got into sort of concept of digital transformation, like actually taking a business, transforming it, to run on a technology or a software platform, where the platform's doing
Yeah.
actually a lot of the process, right? And ensuring that the process is followed,
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. So that's what we did with Propco. We built an enterprise application that ran all the processes of lettings and management business. And we were right at the right time, I think, with that
Yeah.
platform. We were able to win big customers, large property giants, countrywide, people like that.
Yeah.
And so that was, well, how did it change? I mean, it allowed those companies to scale in a way that they couldn't previously scale. I'll give you an example. Before we introduced Propco to some of these really big companies, they would have like central legal processing centers,
Right.
for example, around the country, where you go into a place to rent somewhere, and then they'd have to fire off the application to a processing center where they generate tenancy agreements and documents and send them back. And there's a load of manual stuff, and it's signing, and all this stuff was going through the post, So it was really, whilst they print a document out using a computer, the rest of it was manual process.
Right. Sure.
And so that was the case in accounts departments as well. There's lots and lots of manual processing. And so we brought in software and started to really transform, speed up, and allow more importantly, I suppose, the scaling of those companies. They were able to, Countrywide particularly, bought loads of the market, right, because they were able to scale on this software platform.
Right.
Enabled companies like that to grow using technology. So I think the big thing is allowing a business to become more efficient, thereby more profitable, and easier to grow.
Sure. And I think, I mean, technology, I mean, it's always exponential in its growth anyway, by its very nature. I mean, you and I were doing video calls, and you've been doing way longer than I have for, 10 plus years, right? Because getting on with technology. I think, when you think of how, 4 years ago, then everyone started using it, and actually people were getting more on board with technology. Like, okay, well, these things are just like, and I know, there's often a bit of a hill to climb first, but then there's a nice steady, so it's like the short-term pain for long-term gain, right? I think I sometimes look at things like various tools we use are like, oh, man, I've got to spend like a few hours learning this. It's hard to sort of look at that. Well, actually, it's going to save me 3 months in the next 2 years, So I think, and it's the time-saving aspect of it, which I think is massive, right?
That's it. Yeah, efficiency, time saving, drives down cost, makes the business more profitable.
Sure.
That's what this is all about, right?
Yeah.
How profitable do you want your business to be? Technology can really help there, can really help with productivity.
Yeah. And I think one thing that really springs to mind for me is it enables you to spend more time being the human in front of your customers, right? In front of your landlords, in front of your tenants, right?
Yeah, and this is what I've
It
always said
enables
about the software. What does it allow agents to be, right? Superhuman, right? How do you supercharge your team? How do you make sure that the person that's turning up to meet your client, right, is an absolute expert, right? Well, you can't remember everything all the time, but if you've got it all on your computer or on your handheld device or with you, right, yeah, you can be the expert all the time.
Yeah.
Right, you can know what's going on with that customer, what's the latest stuff they've been doing, what's their mood and sentiment even now, right? So it just means that you can deliver service at a level that's otherwise very difficult to do.
Yeah.
And what do people want? They want, a great service.
Yeah.
People are really good in that regard, right? People who have been in the space, agents that have been working in the space for years, their ability to work with customers is the whole thing,
Yeah.
right? And manage customers. So how does technology help them? Just being on the ball all the time with as much information as possible. Right?
Yeah.
The more expert you look, the more expert information you can give because it's at the touch of a button.
Yeah.
Better your delivery to the customer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's to tap into data. That's the core of it, right? Is anything should be at your fingertips as and when you need it. On the
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you have to go, I've just got to check back at the office.
Yeah.
Right. That's not 2024, is it?
Sure.
Right. I've just got to ring this person up and check.
Yeah.
And if the person that you're competing with for that listing, right, doesn't have to ring someone and check something, right, maybe you lose the listing.
Talking of checks, tell us about check docs.
Yes. Yeah, check docs came about because of the right to rent legislation. There's this massive, burdensome legislation, especially for the bigger companies. For the smaller companies, not so much, because if you're not covering a huge area, you haven't got to work with a lot of different rules. But for the larger letting agencies that have many, branch locations, well, in check docs we built a couple of different products. I'm talking here about property licensing primarily.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the large companies, that was potentially a huge burden. And we were able to, reduce that burden a lot, by using a technology system that tracks all of the rules all of the time.
Yeah.
Right? So you can audit your portfolio really easily against whatever the legislation is in your local area.
Sure. Do you know what? It's interesting. I've had a few conversations about how compliance and legislation leads to good tech. So with GDPR, just about 4 years ago, around this sort of time, we were sort of going through privacy policies, cookie notices, that you see everywhere now. Well, actually, there's some amazing tools out there that we use that check the latest requirements because the states have a different rule for different states, and it's crazy. But with the data, with the technology out there, you can get all that, and it does it for you. So
that's it. Yeah, and you often see technology coming up when there's a new regulation.
Right?
Absolutely the right space to allow businesses to navigate regulation, without a huge cost burden. If you have to do that stuff manually, it's really expensive.
Definitely. I mean, talking about sort of all different tech we can use. I mean, I look at our subscriptions. We've got all sorts of tools. And while you look at the bill each month, sometimes you're like, bloody hell, we're spending all this money on things. But at the time it saves, it's like, well, it's a no-brainer. It's
and you've got to measure that, right? Because as soon as you do, then it becomes obvious. I would say that the more integrated your tools are, the better. Sometimes you have a lot of disparate systems, which leads to potentially data siloing in different places. Got to watch out for that. If you're using lots of different things, but generally, the stuff pays for itself, right? Because you're saving so much time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this brings us nicely on to AI, and I
Yeah.
know you've been an advocate and user of it for
Yes.
years and
Yeah.
years.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've been involved in AI for, object recognition, document recognition,
Yeah,
voice recognition for years. Using that stuff internally and in the products. And, now with generative AI, I've personally been, pretty deeply involved for the last couple of years, as the sort of rumblings of chat GPT and large language models came out,
yeah,
I did what I usually do, went deep into it, researched, read the research, read the science, and started to build out, in our R&D,
yeah.
products that use, large language models and that generative AI technology. But going to the core, self-hosting, understanding how to run LLMs on GPUs and how to get performance out of them. Really getting under the hood of the technology. So whenever a new technology like that comes along, it's great. Personally, I love it because there's just so
Yeah.
much opportunity to learn
And it shakes
explore.
the tree a bit, right, as well.
Say again?
It shakes the tree a bit as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, really does, because some of the stuff that we're able to do with that new tech, it's wonderful stuff, right? I mean, if I use, my, local running models. I don't use Chat GPT and sort of centralized or third party stuff because, we're interested in data security and not sharing, IP on the internet and,
Absolutely.
and that
Yeah,
type of stuff, right? So we've been into, how do you do it? How do you run it? How do you build it?
yeah,
And so we're writing a lot of code now that way, but we're not sharing that very openly because our IP is important. But the amount of code or configuration or especially things like DevOps
yeah.
configurations, the fact that we can just spin out from AI, it's just amazing. Really good.
So DevOps from a typical listener means
So development and ops or systems, operations. It's like running your servers and developing your code.
yeah, sure, yeah, sure.
The tech team. What the tech team do,
What tech
right? Super powered by AI that can help you all the time.
Yeah,
It's just a really great tool for some of the more mundane stuff.
mm.
Sometimes you can be staring at something for ages and you can't spot where the error is, and copy and paste it to the AI and go, "Can you spot where the error is?" And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
"Oh, there it is." So it's good in that sense.
yeah,
It's helping supercharge in the way that we were talking about technology supercharges agents.
yeah,
We're doing the same thing. We're supercharging ourselves with this stuff.
absolutely.
I think that's where it helps in the agent space too.
Mm.
You know, um, I think we'll move very quickly from, the way that we interact with technology at the moment, particularly things like mobile devices. There's a problem that was sort of created by the use of mobile devices, which is how much can you fit on here and
Mm.
operate with two thumbs,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? So there's if you think about that device, there's a sort of automatic dumbing down of everybody that uses it because you've got all these fingers, but you can only sort of really do this.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Can't use your, we're great at being able to speak and describe stuff,
Mm.
but you're reduced to what you can do with pressing buttons and
Yeah, yeah. It's
and
like it's a whole other dimension that it really is. Yeah.
that's right.
Mm.
So if you think you've got a very powerful platform in your hand all the time, and as an agent you're walking around with that all the time,
Mm.
you really just want to be able to talk into it, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we've been looking at, how does AI or tech help agents right now or in the future, and certain things like, generative AI to write property descriptions, keep things
Yep.
interesting and different.
Yeah,
And
that's
we're
it.
actually working with a tool that will regenerate descriptions on your own website versus Rightmove or Zoopla, so you're not duplicating the SEO. You know like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
simple tweaks
It's
that are going
simple
to change
tweaks,
again.
right?
Yeah.
Simple stuff. Yeah. And that's all. Yeah, really low hanging fruit. There's loads of stuff like that already out there.
Yeah.
And yes, we built systems that do exactly that, right? Property description generation using
Sure.
AI. That's the what I call the low hanging fruit, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think what's coming,
So
is
what's
exciting.
next? Yeah.
Yeah, what's coming is really exciting stuff, right? It's knowledgeable AI that is refined and tuned to the space.
Hmm.
Because if you want to really be superhuman, it's what do I say? It's the Iron Man of
Yeah.
with estate agency. It's like I just want to tap here, find out everything, and say it, right? I know everything real time, about my customer, about the property, about the landscape, about the surroundings, about the best schools, about the crime rate, about everything.
Yeah.
To do with it. Any question that's going to be asked, right? Yeah. You want to be that agent that can answer anything.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Absolutely. Do you know what I showed you? I mean, this is stuff you'd be playing on with yourself, anyways. Our chatbot called Dave.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the reasons he's called Dave, is because I remember two people working for you called Dave.
All right. Yeah.
And we did a billboard ad, I remember, talking 10 years ago now, saying, to be frank, or Dave, or in fact, you can ask any of us, because it's a bit of a thing, because everyone's got a mate called Dave, right? So we've kind of humanized our chatbot. It's DeType's automated virtual employee.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of making sure making sure the humans are benefiting from the tech and humanizing it as well, I think, is key.
Yeah, and I think that's what will happen. I think there's a lot of fear around this. I've been involved in the technology and building the technology. I always have these slightly, funny conversations with people around AI, because they'll come out with these, what I find a bit I find the questions bizarre, but are you not worried about it? And it's really dangerous. And there's a couple of questions, and then they'll start telling you the plot of the Terminator. And I'll go, yeah, but it's a film called The Terminator, right? Where those things happen. This is different, what we're doing here. And it's not actually, if you look at LLMs, I mean, things will get more advanced, and there is more technology in the future, and there are regulations and safety concerns, but cars and seat belts is what I always say. Yeah, technology comes around, right? Technology requires regulation, so that things don't go awry because the technology is powerful. But the car and seatbelt analogy applies.
Yeah.
However, we're not in the world of there being a dominating AI that's going to destroy the planet, right? Because it's a movie plot line. It's called The Terminator.
Yeah. I always think these things kind of go a bit like this, staggered up. So one thing changing that, and it's just
That's it. So there's a lot of talk of the dangers, but actually, I think what we need is openness. Yeah. That's the key. It needs openness and transparency. That's why what we do is we work with open source models. Right?
Yeah.
We've got the whole data set. So is everybody else. Yeah. You can see the training data set, right? Everybody can see the training data set. Everybody can collectively work on the training data set. And I actually read in the press just this morning, I think there's a senator in the US who's just proposed this, right? The regulation needs to be that all your training data is public domain. It's in the open. Everybody knows what it's trained on. Right. So that type of transparency is what will ensure that this is actually AI for the benefit of people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's where AI is the brilliant thing. It's just that people have not realized quite that it actually supercharges everybody. Right. the way it's being portrayed to companies negatively. And at the moment, they're centralized in big corporations. That's how most people are accessing it. OpenAI. And yeah, that's not what it was supposed to be. I don't think. I think the name is OpenAI.
Yeah, I was thinking about. We had a conversation just last week. I think about OpenAI. Is it open?
Right. And so what they started with the ethos of it being open and transparent and all this, and then it seems to have become not so much. I think there's some litigation going on at the moment.
There's also, especially in these sort of artist communities, well, in the creator community, which is everyone, right? Is like, well, hang on a minute, this is my work here. Yeah.
I think there's actually a case against OpenAI by Elon Musk at the moment, which is this is supposed to be open, right? And so I don't know where it will go, or if it will get anywhere, but the future of that generative technology is open. I don't know if you knew. I think there was something called the leaked Google memo about this.
All right.
Yeah, and in there they sort of openly talked about how open source large language models and open source AI is doing stuff that some of these companies have spent hundreds of millions on. Right?
Yeah.
And we're doing the same stuff, in hundreds of dollars.
Yes.
Right. So it's very interesting there.
Huge corporations,
right?
Yeah.
Huge corporations have got a load of money, right? They can spend on massive infrastructure. But as soon as you get, students at uni hacking technology, right, someone's running it on their MacBook.
Yeah.
Right. We've got a large language model that can run on a phone processor. Right. And so the innovation that's gone on in the space is amazing. So I think you're going to see products coming through really quickly, much faster change now, because it just speeds everything up. Right?
Yeah.
Even building technology is 10 times faster.
Yeah. I mean, I remember even looking at like SAS and less for creating CSS style sheets. So the styling of your site can be done iteratively, and that was a game changer. What, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah,
maybe longer. But it's those sort of things just amplified, right?
Amplified. Yeah. So this is there's a big change going on. It was inevitable that this would happen, and I think that will keep going. And I think there'll be some people that really want to use AI and some people that don't.
Yep.
Right. I think in the agency space, give choice. If you're in the space, you're thinking, what should I do? Which things should I implement? Give your customers choice. They'll decide. They'll tell you. Yeah. Don't ram it down anyone's throat. Have both.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing. So some people like to use tech and want to interact with the business via their website or via their chat or whatever. Other people don't, right? They just actually really want the wraparound service. They want someone to speak to. So the best thing is actually implement technology where your customers want it.
Yeah.
Some really do. Yeah. And use the traditional approach where people demand that. Yeah. No problem. There's no point sort of being in one camp or the other, I don't think. Not if you're really commercial about your business.
Absolutely.
Right? It's actually satisfy the customer. What does the customer want?
Yeah.
Not what do you think about it?
Yeah. I mean, this is something that we always come back to when any aspects of what we're doing is, no matter what you want your website to be like, what do the audience want?
Right.
That's who you're servicing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Very important never to forget that. Yeah.
Nice, cool. Thanks, Vik. Any last thoughts on these topics?
Well, you know what? Not on these topics, but you mentioned something earlier about we've been using video calling for the last 10 years or so, and it literally spun a memory out for me because I actually started using video calling, or as an attempt anyway, when I had the lettings businesses.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, we expanded, I think, to 4 or 5 branches. And I used to have this problem where landlords would come into the branch in Leamington Spa and they'd want to speak to me. So what we did is we set up webcams in each place, and we used. Do you remember that there was a software called Net Meeting?
I do. Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Microsoft Windows
I can see the logo of
95
it now.
Net Meeting, and it was a very interesting way to do a video conference.
And if you had like more than like 2 or 3 people, it just started to fall over, and it was just.
I think even getting it to get like one person, was not straightforward.
Yeah.
To get it to work. Originally bundled with, I'm just reading now, originally bundled with Internet Explorer 3, and then with Windows from 95 to Windows Server 2003. They were still bundling it with Windows Server 2003.
Wow.
So really going back in time there to the first.
Yeah. Well, it
first
just
video
shows
conferencing
how
we did.
long this tech has been around, right?
Yeah.
I mean, AI. You think of Google search is arguably AI in the way it's processing things, right? And that's
right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Been around a long time. And also large language models. This is a 1970s technology, actually.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s, the first large language model.
Right.
It was way back then.
Mm.
Yeah. It's been around for a while. We're, I think, embracing it, fully now.
Yeah. Nice. Wicked. Thank you, Vic. Really appreciate your time. Fascinating conversation. I could talk for hours on this kind of thing. I know you could too. So maybe I'll do a part 2 sometime. So wicked. All right.
All right. Thanks very much.
Later.
Take care.